So last night we talked about the frontal lobe, and one of the things that really sticks in my mind is the fact that there are many people who are laying in the cemetery today because they did not have control of their willpower. And I know individuals who have died simply because they couldn't give up a cherished habit. So last night when we finished, we were talking about the fact that there are individuals who have got onto things like marijuana, caffeine, and other drugs that really impair the frontal lobe. And the question was, is there a way back for these individuals? And so what I want to share with you, just for a brief moment before we go into tonight's topic, is some brain scans that were done of individuals who were addicted to marijuana, caffeine, other drugs, just so that you can see what the brain looks like, and that there is hope. We should never say that because somebody has gone down that road and they are totally addicted, maybe even for years, that they cannot find their way back, because the Bible tells us that we have been fearfully and wonderfully made. And sometimes we make mistakes, but the God of grace is still willing to work with us. So the SPECT scan, which I'm going to show you, stands for Single Photon Emission Computed Tomography. Okay, it's quite a lot, but it's an imaging of the brain, and these images, what they will show you is what the brain looks like. Oh yes, there we go. So you see the healthy brain versus the unhealthy brain. So on SPECT, the surface of a healthy brain looks smooth with a full and symmetrical blood flow and activity. This tells us that the brain is working the way that it's supposed to. And then on the other side, the SPECT image of an unhealthy brain reveals many holes on the surface, which represent areas of low blood flow, poor activity as a result of damage from substance and alcohol abuse. So you can imagine what's going on with an individual whose brain is looking like that. So here's a top surface view, and brain damage for a person who's on and off drugs and alcohol. So during alcohol and drug abuse, and then 1 year of abstinence from drug abuse on the right-hand side. So can you see that there is improvement once the person has left off that habit? That you can see that the brain is improving. So there is hope. And then, of course, look at this one, brain images of alcohol abuse and brain trauma. A 48-year-old with 22 years of daily alcohol and a history of past head injury. Note the marked scalloping and overall decreased activity in the brain. That brain really looks bad. So, addiction, when you are addicted to something, I wish I had some images to show you of the brain when that is addicted to pornography, because it damages your brain in a similar way. We just need to protect our brain space. If you lose your brain, you lose everything. And I know individuals who have lost their frontal lobe, their ability to really will themselves to get out of the position or the situation that they're in. Brain images of alcohol abuse and brain trauma, brain images of long-term alcohol use. Just look at the holes in that brain, how damaged it is, And so you can understand that individuals who are in that kind of situation, they're not really able to function properly. They're not really able to make decisions. One of these images is of a doctor. And just imagine going to him for help, and his brain is looking like that. Okay, so tonight I want to talk to you about a toxic world and toxic bodies. We are living in a world where we are surrounded by toxic images. There are, our oceans are polluted, our rivers are polluted, and for those of you who take refuge in fish, let me tell you that fish is even more polluted than the animals that we're saying that you shouldn't eat, because even if you go to some remote areas, because of the rain, when the rain falls, the rain has the lead in it from all the carbon monoxide and everything else in the atmosphere, and so all around us the waters are polluted. And then we talked on Sabbath about biomagnification, that even though they may take samples of the water and say, well, no, there's not a lot of lead in this water, the fact that the fish is taking in that water on a daily basis, those bits of lead, tiny particles of whatever pollution is being stored in the tissue of the fish, which then magnifies it greatly, and then you take that fish and fry it up and imbibe those toxins. So we just need to be aware of what's happening. Our bodies are toxic because we are just surrounded, we live, we breathe toxins. And as we go through this presentation this evening, you will see that the various toxic things that are around us, things that impact on every one of us, and we're not even aware of it. So we're taking in toxins all the time, and we don't really realize that this is what we're doing. Coal-fired plants are killing thousands of people around the world. One of the things that Donald Trump has said, he's not interested in green issues. He wants to build more coal-fired power stations because he wants to try and revive the U.S. mining areas that have been decimated under Obama, and so he's saying, yeah, we're going to build more power stations. But in England, where I come from, we are being taxed to the max because they're striving for green. So to go into the centre of London, Errol knows about this, it's £10 just to drive into the centre of London. So that's about 170 rand. To drive into the centre of London. Yes, it's a very effective deterrent, and that's also to deal with green issues. They're trying to, and then if you're driving a certain kind of car, so if you've got a 2-litre car or above, it will cost you more for that. And if you're driving an eco car, let's say you've got one of these. Like a Prius, so it's a green or it's energy car, then you don't have to pay anything to go in. So the government really is doing a lot of things to try and protect the environment. So for me as a Brit, one of the things that grieves me is as I go around the world and I see that we're being taxed and everybody else is saying, well, we don't care, we don't care. And you go to America and they're driving these 4-litre vehicles and so on, and their petrol is a lot cheaper. Let me not say it's a lot cheaper here in South Africa as well. 386,000 tons of air pollutants are emitted from more than 400 plants in the US per year. Now that's a lot of toxic waste that's going into the atmosphere. Carbon monoxide makes up about half of our air pollutants, directly linked to heart disease. So says Dr. Don Colbert in the book's Toxic Relief. So every day we are breathing in these toxic fumes. If you want to go for a brisk walk, then try to do so away from areas where there's a lot of cars. Try to find a park or somewhere quiet where you can breathe in fresh air rather than the carbon monoxide. And then there's the new building syndrome. How many of you have heard of new building syndrome? New building syndrome. In a new building, you've taken possession of your new home, and there is this term that's called outgassing. And outgassing is all the chemicals that are in that house, the new carpets, the worktops, the paint, all of that volatile organic compounds such as benzene, styrene, carbon, tetrachloride, and other chemicals are as much as 100 times greater in new buildings compared to the levels that you find outdoors. So if you're in a new building, if you've painted your room, the last thing that you want to do is to go and sleep in that room that night. And if you've decorated your house, it's a good idea just to go away, let the builders get on with it for a week and allow those fumes to dissipate rather than being there, because you're breathing that in, and all of that stuff is toxic. So when you go into a new office building, you've got new carpets, which is releasing formaldehyde, new furniture from pressed wood, which is releasing formaldehyde. So you're smelling all of that, aren't you? You're taking that in, and for some people, it really causes them to be sick. I have a friend who is just totally allergic to anything like that. She really is so very sensitive. So the many chemicals released through outgassing from carpets, paints and glues can become so strong that those who work in those buildings become ill. I don't know if anybody here has experienced that, but there are indeed individuals who go through that. When a building's indoor pollution level rises this high, you are more likely to become ill with sick building syndrome, defined as the occurrence of excessive work or school-related illness among workers or students in buildings of recent construction. So what he's saying is this, that the employers will not want to acknowledge the fact that it's the new building that's caused you to be sick, it's anything else, because once they acknowledge that, then you're due compensation, and they will not acknowledge that fact. But if you find yourself feeling sick in a new building, it is very real, because that's called outgassing. And then you're working with photocopiers, which give off their own smell, printers, computers, all of these things, you're breathing in these fumes. And so it's always good to get fresh air. Do not just stay in that environment. And some people go to work and they are there all day at the desk. They take out their sandwich and they eat their sandwich right there, and they're so dedicated, but it's making you sick, and we're taking in those toxins. And then what about the new car, the brand new car? In the brand new car, there's all those new smells that you're coming in. You feel great. You don't even notice the smell because it's a new car and everything, but the outgassing still takes place there. It's good to drive with your window open, window down, just to allow those fumes to dissipate. Okay, so dampness also creates mold, which can be found in our air conditioning units. Damp homes not only breed mold, but they breed dust mites. So we all know about the dust mites that's in the carpets, in our homes, but what about the air conditioning units? And one of the things that we've just recently in Spain installed air conditioning units in our home, and one of the things that we did as the gentleman came, we said, well, is this one of those units that will create mold, and of course he said to us, no, you won't get any mold with this. But All salespeople will tell you that, but you just need to be aware that there are these things that are coming at us all the time. And be conscious, be aware. And sometimes we're sick and we don't really know the reason why it is that we're feeling sick, because we don't even think to put our finger on any of these things. And then what about the pesticides? Believe it or not, pesticides can be found in disposable nappies, shampoos, air fresheners, mattresses, carpets. You are being exposed to pesticides every single day. So what about, somebody said to me, what about the fruits and vegetables that we're buying? They have pesticides in them. And certainly if you're not buying organic fruits and vegetables, then they do have those pesticides on them. And here's how to remove them. Fill a large bowl with 4 parts water to 1 part plain white vinegar. Soak the fruit or vegetables you'd like to clean in the mixture for 20 minutes, and then rinse off the fruit or vegetables well with water. So that's how to remove those toxic pesticides from the fruits and vegetables, especially if you're not buying organic. And then most of the pesticides in the home is brought in on your shoes. So when you as you walk around, you're walking in all types of surfaces and so on, and then you use the same shoes to walk into your home, and you're bringing in all those pesticides. So most of the pesticides that you will find in your house is coming from your shoes. And so it's always good to have slippers that you're wearing indoors. And then so when you get to your front door, you remove your shoes and you put on your slippers. Where we were at the health center, they just had a policy that from the moment you got to the front door, those shoes were removed. Or you can have little plastic bags that you put over with an elastic at the top that you put over your shoes, but we weren't allowed to walk into the sanitarium with shoes. And then the largest organ in the body is the skin. It absorbs, it excretes, and it protects. So whatever you put on your skin gets absorbed into the body. And again, this is an area that we don't really think about very much, but what are the things that we are putting onto our skin that comes into our body? So what about the deodorant that you're using? Okay, have you looked at it? Have you looked at all those chemicals that are on the label? Would you put any of those chemicals into your mouth? But you're using and finding another way of getting it into your body. So think about that. What we do, we use aloe vera, which is a natural product, so we try to look for safe things to use. Also with our toothpaste, we have an aloe vera toothpaste. So we've moved away from the things with fluoride and chemicals and so on. We try to go as natural as possible. We're talking about the toxins that we're taking into our bodies all the time, which invariably makes us sick. So what about the mosquito repellent or the sunscreen that you're using? All the things in these compounds, they are toxic, and we put them onto our bodies, and invariably they go into our system. Many of the sunscreens on the market use either mineral or chemical filters to block sunlight. Products that use chemical filters usually contain a combination of 2 or more of the following ingredients. You've got havobenzone, homosalate, octene oxate, and oxybenzone. Now, these compounds block the rays of the sun from burning the skin. And maybe I'm talking to folk who don't need to go and sunbathe, but the advice is do not go sunbathing. Dr. James Duke, Green Pharmacy, don't sunbathe ever. You can get the rays of the sun if you're walking in the sun, but many people get cancer, skin cancer as a result of going sunbathing. It's really not worth it. What about the mosquito repellent that you're using? We have to think about that. It contains this compound called DEET. If you do a Google search for DEET, you will discover that it is a highly toxic, corrosive compound, and you really wouldn't want to be putting that into your body. DEET is one of the most widely used chemicals as a mosquito repellent. While the use of DEET in lower concentrations is considered safe, when used in concentrations greater than 50%, DEET can produce skin irritation. Eye irritation is also common. DEET also will penetrate the skin and can, in rare instances, affect the central nervous system. So it's really not worth us putting these things on. There are alternative mosquito repellents that you can use. If you do a Google search, you will always get the information if you want. So if you're intentional about it, you can find alternatives. All right. Toxic substances to watch out for in our daily use: the formaldehyde in soaps. Formaldehyde weakens the immune system, leading to a reduced resistance to disease. Parabens found in deodorants, shampoos, soaps. We're using all of these things, and we don't really think about them, do we? We don't think about the compound that's in that soap, that's in the toothbrush. What about the air fresheners that we're using? We spray these things and we breathe them in, and it's going straight into the system. But have you thought that the air freshener that you're using is carcinogenic, and you need to think about using something that is safer to use? The insect spray. So if the spray that you're spraying to kill the insects kills the insect, what's it doing to you? We were at the health center, and we had in our room, with the flies would just come visit us on a very regular basis, and I just couldn't take it. So I went out and bought fly killer or insect killer. But my wife would just not allow me to use that thing in the room. She said, "You can spray it there when you're on your own." So when we were leaving, we were going away for a week. Then we just sprayed the room with it. So if you're going to use these sprays, make sure that you're not around because you're breathing in toxic fumes that's causing your body to be toxic. What about the candles that you're burning? Did you know that the wick on the candles have lead in it? And so when you're breathing that in, that lead is going into your system. So again, you want to think about the candles. You can get lead-free candles. The fabric softeners for your clothes, another area in which we have harmful compounds. So some of the harmful ingredients commonly found in liquid or sheet fabric softeners include chloroform, a carcinogenic neurotoxin. It is on the EPA's, that's the Environment Protection Agency in America, hazardous waste list. Inhaling its vapors may cause loss of consciousness, nausea, headache, vomiting, and or dizziness, drowsiness. It may aggravate disorders of the heart, kidneys, or liver. It worsens when subject to heat. It's a wonder we're alive, isn't it? With all these things that we're using and we take for granted, we really don't know that there are these things in them. So the coloring agents that we use in our foods. So remember I talked earlier this week about the tinned tomatoes or the baked beans or even the drinks that you're drinking. So I see some highly colored drinks. They're green or whatever. What is it that they're using? Coloring agents made from synthetic colors, chemicals, usually made from petroleum or coal products, and are to be found in the foods that we eat. All right? So think about these things and remember that God gave us water to drink, and that's the best drink. There's no color, there's no coloring, and it's a lot healthier for us. So our bodies are under toxic assault. Would you agree tonight? Yeah. And it's the truth is that you cannot escape it, because as you walk down the road, you're breathing in toxic fumes. You go to the shop, and you've now got to navigate your way around the things that you need to buy, because we're living in a toxic world. Everything around us, there's just so much toxins. It's in the environment, it's in the food, it's in the medications that we take, it's in our shampoos, our air fresheners. Our bodies are crying out for toxic relief. So we may not know it. And sometimes you are sick and you don't even know the reason why. You've gone to your doctor and your doctor has said, well, there's nothing wrong. I can't find anything wrong with you. But you know that you're not feeling on top of the world. And we need a detox, to be honest. So we're all in need of a detox. And I want to just share with you a methodology for detoxing. Every one of us could do with a detox. Therapeutic fasting is not a mystical or magical cure. It works because the body has within it the capacity to heal when the obstacles to healing are removed. Health is the normal state. Most chronic disease is the inevitable consequence of living a lifestyle that places disease-causing stressors on the human organism. Okay, so that's the reason why we get sick. So the reasons for fasting. Fasting gives the body an interlude without those stressors so that it can speedily repair or accomplish healing that could not otherwise occur in the feeding state. Fasting stops the continual work of the digestive tract, whose activity can drain the body of energy and divert the healing processes. So fasting has a therapeutic benefit to all of us. The truth is we do not do it often enough. In many cases of sickness, the very best remedy is for the patient to fast for a meal or two, that the overworked organs of digestion may have an opportunity to rest. Okay, I've spoken about this again earlier this week, and I want to share this quote with you from Ellen White. She says, "I'm astonished to learn that after all the light that has been given in this place," I don't know where the place was, "that many of you eat between meals. You should never let a morsel pass your lips between your regular meals. Eat what you ought, but eat it at one meal and then wait until the next. I eat enough to satisfy the wants of nature, but when I get up from the table, my appetite is just as good as when I sat down. And when the next meal comes, I'm ready to take my portion and no more." So, the truth is that the stomach is probably the most abused organ in the body, because we're just constantly eating, and when we get sick it's because the stomach is saying, "Please, I need a break. I need a break. Give me a break." Fatty tissues, chemicals and toxins during fasting are being released. So fatty tissues release chemicals and toxins during fasting. So a lot of the toxins that we take in are stored in the fatty tissues of our body. These in turn are broken down by the liver and excreted by the kidneys. Your body will excrete toxins in many different ways during a fast. Some people actually develop boils, rashes, or body odor during fasting since toxins are being released through the body's excretory organs and the skin. So the best fast that is recommended, let me just go back a little to say that the reason why the stomach is the most abused organ in the body is because we are constantly eating. The stomach takes a lot of energy to digest the food, and if we're eating every 2 hours, and remember that I spoke to you earlier about this week about the fact that when we go into the workplace, we've had breakfast at home, and then at 10 o'clock we have a tea break, and there's tea and biscuits. At 12 o'clock or 12:30, 1 o'clock, there's lunch, and we eat a larger amount. And then at 3 o'clock, there is another break for tea and biscuits and cake. And then we get home at 6 o'clock, and we have another meal. And then before we go to bed, 9 o'clock, I'm hungry again, and we have something to eat again. And so it goes on. And the stomach is just crying out and say, please, I need a break. So when you take time to fast, you're giving your stomach a break, and it really is helping the body to heal. So reasons for fasting, it's best for complete detoxification. So you want to give the body a detox, stop eating for a couple of days. If you can go even 3 days with no food, then it will really help your body a great deal. Yes.
3 days on juice.
Yes. I'm going to come. Yeah, I'm going to come to the juicing. I'll explain that to you definitely. So it alkalizes the body. It supports the liver. These are the benefits of fasting. It's not as austere as water fasting. So juice fasting is recommended for the following reasons. Okay, so we're saying here that this is a juice fast and not a total abstinence from all nutrients. That's like if you were on a water fast. So juice fasting supplies the body with generous amounts of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, enzymes, and phytonutrients that help your body to heal and restore yourself. So that's the benefit. And don't just, when you do your juice, allow some of the sediments to drink some of the sediments with the juice because it helps to keep the colon open, because you're flushing the system, and that colon needs to be functioning to get rid of the waste that's in the body. So there you go. Juice fasting also keeps the colon active, whereas water fasting shuts down the colon, which is a major player in any detox program. All right. So the juicer that we have at home, a lot of the sediments will come through into in the juice, and we're able to do that. All right. So benefits of the juice fasting: it prevents and fights tumors and cancers, lowers your cholesterol, increases the immune function, fights virus, stimulate detoxification enzymes, blocks the production of cancer-causing compounds, and protects the DNA from damage. So one of the best things that you can do for your body is to stop eating, and to stop eating for a few days. Fasting is a discipline, but we can do it. Let me share with you the spiritual benefits of fasting. Fasting is not easy because it goes against the desires of the carnal man. So I want my biscuits, I want my sweets, I want this, I want to go to the braai. There's so many things that we want to do, and fasting will just get in the way, But fasting is very, very beneficial to the body. Fasting is not easy because it goes against the natural man. The sinful mind is hostile to God. It does not submit to God's law, nor can it do so. Remember, though, one of the in the New Start program, the T stands for trusting God. And whatever Ellen White says this, that whenever you're sick and you recover, it's because of the mercy of God. It's because of the goodness of God. And I know that I've been sick before. And when you're sick, when you're on your sick bed, you cry out to God and you make all kinds of promises, right? I'm never going to do this again, Lord. Just get me out of here, and I promise I won't. And as soon as we're up, we forget the promises that we make. But notice this. If Christ is in you, the body is dead because of sin. Isn't that what we say? The Apostle Paul says, I die daily. And when Christ is in us, then we are dead to sin. We are dead to the things that we crave for. In theory, we are dead to the things that the natural man wants to do. But the Spirit is life because of righteousness. So, therefore, I urge you, the Apostle Paul says, in view of God's mercy, offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. So, for those of us who are connected to God, fasting should be part of our experience anyway. Fasting brings me into the presence of God. I can shut out the things of the world and I can be focused. My wife will tell you that periodically I will go on a 7-day fast, and I'm still alive, guys. So I will go on a 7-day fast. When I was losing the weight, I would do regularly on a weekly basis, do a 2-day fast. So from Thursday after my last meal, I would go straight through until Sabbath lunchtime before I would eat again. So it can be done, but it's all up here. It's up here. The battle is in the mind. But that the disciples, when they were engaged with the devil, they were trying to cast out that demon-possessed boy, and they tried all they could, and they couldn't cast out the demon. And Jesus came down and cast out the devil. And then they came to him and they said, Lord, why couldn't we do that? And Jesus said, this sort doesn't come out except through prayer and fasting. And there are things that we're asking God to do for us, and we really don't get on our knees and really cry out to God in the way we should, and taking time out. So fasting should be easy for the Christian. It is one of those disciplines that we should be willing to do. And there are great health benefits. Dr. Neil Nedley says, if you get sick, the best thing that you can do for yourself is to go on a 3-day fast. Just stop eating, because the reason why we get sick a lot of the times is because this machine here has not been given any rest. And I don't know about the work culture, but this South Africa has a lot of Britishers here. So there's the British culture that's here, and so we start work, and then there's the 10 o'clock tea break, and then lunchtime, and then the 3 o'clock tea break. Is that the pattern? Okay, there you go. So, I shared with you earlier this week the fact that when I was at work and I decided, you know what, I will no longer eat between meals, and so had my breakfast that morning, and came 10 o'clock, the stomach was saying, "Feed me now." And I'm saying, no, I'm not going to do this. And really my stomach was crying out because I had trained myself to be that way. But after a few days, after a few days of saying, you know what, I'm in charge. The mind is in charge of the body. And so when the mind says to the brain, we will not do this anymore, you send a signal to the body and the body responds. There's that symbiotic working relationship. So may God bless you as we think about these things and how we're going to detox our bodies. So because we live, and let me just say before I close that the detox, I will leave with Paula and Errol some juicing recipes for you. But the detox is something that you should do at least once a month. At least once a month, just give the body some rest. And of course, you've all decided now that you won't be eating between meals, which is great. So you're halfway there already, and just allow give the stomach some time to rest. Yes.